But just talking about the internet disrupting and AI disrupting a lot of things, do you think you will ever be replaced by an AI that is simulating you? Because you have a lot of recordings, you have a lot of obviously material. I don't know what it would be, an AI sort of, because you have to be creative to come up with new coursework and all these things.
Yep.
But I think a natural question for a guy like you, focusing on technology, teaching, and AI, would you ever be replaced and disrupted by AI yourself?
That's a very good question. So, I think there's a misconception with what AI can actually do today. And honestly, I'm not sure whether it's gonna ever move up from here.
Right.
But AI today is really good at doing tasks, so very narrow applications. Recommend movies if you're Netflix.
Answer on a search query by ranking pages.
Exactly.
Web pages. Yeah.
Recognizing if there's another car in front of you, if you have a giant car. So that's a given. That's what AI can do now. And to be honest, I don't know if we ever gonna reach a level that is called general AI. So some AI can do everything that I can do as a human being. Okay, I don't know if we're ever gonna get there, but let's work with what we have now, which is gonna work also for the short and medium term. Let's say for 10, 20, 50 years. If AI can just replace tasks, then it's gonna replace just the jobs that are made by single tasks. And there are some. It's not that they don't exist. If you think about a truck driver, 90% of his time or her time is spent driving. That can be replaced. So these people are the ones in danger. But I want to just stimulate you to think about this. There was a survey. They asked truck drivers, do you want your son or daughter to do your job? They will say no. It's a hell of a job.
Interesting.
So same thing. If you go,
they actually want their own job to be disrupted. They don't want anybody else to take that kind of.
They don't want to lose a job because they need money, but they don't want
others to do it either.
Yeah,
at least their kids.
Yeah, and you know about the Foxconn factories in China? They had to install nets under the buildings
because the people assembling iPhones and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
they were killing themselves. And by the way, Apple tried to automate that process and they failed because it was too complicated. Even if it's so repetitive, it's still too complicated to build some technology, some AI that can take care of all the little nuances. If you get a phone that is slightly tilted, a human is just like, slightly tilted. A computer is still kind of hard. And if I tell a human, hey, from tomorrow, I want this chip to be instead of here, I want it to be here. Cool, the human gets it and does it. Machines just freak out with exceptions and changes and all this kind of stuff. So Apple couldn't do it. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not that easy to replace jobs. And for the foreseeable future, just a few jobs may be replaced. And I question whether that's a bad thing.
Right.
Okay.
Because it's shit jobs that people don't want to do in the first place.
People don't want to do them. If your job is a single task, that's not a job for a human.
Yeah.
Period.
It's kind of beautiful when you think about it, that AI is a technology coming up that literally replaces repetitive work first and foremost, that people don't want to do in the first place.
It is honestly, this is kind of a philosophical view, but it's kind of freeing. How many things? Because if we go back to the idea that AI replaces tasks, your job is made of hundreds of different tasks. Some of them are what make you special, right? It's where you're being human and being Mark.
Yeah. And others
shines through.
And others I can outsource, have somebody else do, or an AI do.
Yeah. And so honestly, I think I know it sounds a little bit naive, but I do believe that AI can actually take over some of the things that we don't really care about. Like for instance, I have my online lessons. You can have subtitles in a bunch of different languages.
Right.
I wrote a script. I didn't translate the whole. I didn't even transcribe it. I have a script that transcribes my speech into my audio into text, and then another script that translates that into different languages. And then I hire people to just make the last, like, translate it basically. I literally copied their model,
Right.
So that people can just fix it and then have perfect subtitles. And it takes them 1 hour instead of 5, like a fifth of the time. Just super happy. Like, I talk to these people that are paid by the hour. These people that are working with me. And they were like, oh, thank you, Gianluca. I made less money, but a hell of a job to transcribe the whole thing. I really think that this is going to be interesting.
So even them who actually lives this, like they get paid to transcribe and all these things, they think it's a good thing that they got the tool.
It's so frustrating to do it from scratch. Instead, if you just have to fix and some AI, some software has studied it for you, it's better, right? And then also, well, I asked them to do other things that were more creative anyway. I asked them to, try to look at the copy, try to, do this, try to do that. So in the end, they got all this stuff to do.
There was an interesting story in the media in Denmark yesterday where there was a mother of a 35-year-old, so she was maybe 65 or something like that. The boy died, the 35-year-old.
The what?
The boy died.
The boy, okay.
Because of a car accident. And this 65-year-old, that's what I find interesting about it's a tragic story, obviously, but she literally says to the camera, it's a, DR1, the main news channel in Denmark. She literally says, if he had, or the driver had a self-driving algorithm or something that kicks in, not to hit people on the street or whatever on the street, my son would be alive today. And that really hit me hard. Like, you look at this 65-year-old who doesn't necessarily understand self-driving. I was surprised in the first place that she would mention something like this. But I think there's so many, we talk about jobs, but there's, so many applications where people, get tired or whatever. They make mistakes, basically. They can be working together with AI to become the best version of themselves, if you will. A translator, a driver, whatever it is, right?
100%. I mean, there are things that are just not made for humans. We are not made to have constant attention for 8 hours when I'm driving. That's not what we're built for,
exactly.
And so these things should be taken over by stuff that are made for working 8 hours without being tired, for instance. And that's actually there's something also that, going back to the education topic, if you think about it, historically, as I said before, there are two industries that just don't scale, healthcare and education, right? Okay, think about this. If the truck driver, okay? So in a future where there are no truck drivers, the people that would have chosen that job, they need to do something else, right? And we know that there's a shortage of nurses, of healthcare operators.
True. Some of those truck drivers might have gone into medicine, become a nurse, become a whatever,
exactly.
teacher.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that today's truck driver is gonna suddenly, start studying medicine.
Yeah.
That probably is not gonna happen. Yeah. But the next generation of potential truck drivers, they're gonna go somewhere else. So we have issues here in the world that we don't have enough people to tackle. Taking care of the elderly. Again, nursing, all that stuff needs humans. So that's why I sometimes get pissed off when I see people that are building AI application to replace nurses. I'm like, come on, this is the job that you want to have humans to do.
Yeah.
Because if I'm sick, I want to talk to a human.
Yeah.
If I'm a human, I want to talk to humans. Yeah. And it's empathy. These are the things that make humans special.
Exactly.
Go make AI that can replace chip manufacturers. So just ideally just picture all these things that humans are good at, picture all these things that robots are good at, and then build technology so that robots can do this and humans can do this. Otherwise it's like if you have a football team and you're taking someone who plays defense and putting to try to score. It just doesn't work.
I think that's a general misconception with AI in general and technology as well. It's very binary, or people look at it very binary. Either you go full on technology, automate everything, or you go full on manual with humans basically at the front seat. And reality is always a mix. It's always the two working together and becoming the better version of themselves.
And that's what works best. I mean, it has been proven.
Yeah. And my girlfriend is actually a neurologist, or studying to become a neurologist. And there's been a lot of hype about IBM's Watson, replacing doctors and all these kind of things. Especially within brain science, because the brain is so complicated. We as humans have not been able to understand the brain very well. And now a lot of people are saying, okay, with modern day AI and all these things, we can understand the human brain much better because they can look at complications and complexities that we as humans are not able to do. But when you're a neurologist, basically you're giving medicine to somebody with Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, or whatever condition that you might have, going on in your brain. When you prescribe that medicine as a neurologist, you are always looking for all these different nuances, something that you see. So it's basically pattern recognition, but it's just so hard for a machine to do that kind of pattern recognition because there's always outliers, always people doing differently, and we all look different. We all brought up different ways, so we have different ways of expressing ourselves. So somebody from Denmark would express themselves in one way where they have a certain condition, and somebody from Turkey will express themselves in another way. Danish people, for example, they're very reserved and not very sort of lively, whereas somebody in Turkey might be more lively. And those kind of nuances is very hard for a machine to replicate. Yeah. So I think, to your point, basically, when AI comes in, it's not a replacement of doctors, it's an amplifier of doctors.